Hey guys, Ashen here and welcome back to the channel guys, and welcome to another build showcase if it comes to Destiny 2. Today I managed to cook for you guys a very powerful endgame build for the Warlock classes. For our Warlock mains out there, get ready for yourself. You're going to be cooking tonight if it comes to every single content this Destiny has to offer. For Grandmaster, for Onslaught, and just name it, this build can manage to pull you through every single the hardest content that this game has to offer. From raids, from dungeons, just name it. The one thing that this build does extremely well, if it comes, is ad control. It does extremely high damage because of single targets, and has a high tier survivability because we always have Devourer proccing on us, and we also have a pool of Radiance to increase our damage output, and of course to make sure we are potent against barrier champions. Now this build is synergized himself together with one unique artifact exotic, call himself the Getaway Artist. Now, the Getaway Artist, as a form of an exotic, has a very unique perk on his disposal. As you read, the dynamic duo has a stasis himself a form of inscription as the perk itself. As you press L1, you convert your arc grenade into an arc souls, and that makes you amplified. Your arc souls function as a form of an auto torrent itself. Remember that very importantly, because that will become important. How we synergize this exotic with our prismatic aspect itself. We are synergizing this of course with the Prismatic Warlock, and we are using as the very first aspect to make sure that this build truly synergizes itself perfectly in endgame contents. So we make sure that we have first a very first pool of Devour constantly at all time. The moment we activate of course our Arc Souls, our Devour will be proccing thanks to our the one and only Feed the Void. Feed the Void give us the ability to activate our Devourer, and every single time we kill a target. That also means when our Arc Soul is actually killing the targets for us, our Devourer is going to be activated. But doing that, of course, is going to restore our health and our grenade energy at the same times. In form of endgame content and survivability, this becomes extremely mandatory for Warlocks if it comes to endgame high level tier of gameplay. To make sure we even have an even better form of ad control and Grandmasters, Onslaught, of any single thing that the game has to offer if it comes to content of the game itself, where we have an extensive form of ads in our surroundings. So we're making sure that we have an additional form of ad control. So we're using our second perk is the one and only Bleak Watcher. The Bleak Watcher, what this is going to do, when you press L1, you create a stasis storage. By firing projectiles from the stasis storage is going to slow every single target in our surrounding. So this is why it becomes very important if you watch the Getaway Artist. The moment we proc the Getaway Artist by pressing L1, we're not only going to create an Arc Souls, but together we're going to create as well a stasis storage at the same time. That means we're always going to have two little bodies around us, a form of torrents that deals damage additionally to our own firepower. Is extremely powerful when it comes to in-game contents and really maintaining the battlefields under control. To make sure we are synergizing all of this absolutely perfectly, we managed to use the unique abilities that try to synergize and conform to endgame contents. The very first ability I want to mention to you guys, if it comes to our healing pools, we're using the Affinity Dive. If it comes to Grandmaster, Onslaught, and play styles and playthroughs, where you have of course and Vanguard team is very close by with each other, we're gonna use Phoenix Dive not only to heal each other but also to heal our allies at the same time. For raid aspect, we're gonna use of course the Empowering Rift if it's needed, of course from our raid team and a composition. Secondary form of mobility, we're gonna use the Balance Glide. We like personally this glide. If it comes to our Warlock, choose the glide where you want to choose. We're using Arcane Needle. Arcane Needle is going to provide us the very first form of a melee ability. This also is going to provide us, if we have a strength weapon in our equipment, it's going to give us unraveling rounds, and of course make sure those unraveling rounds has a stun ability against barrier champions. The unique thing about this is this creates a beautiful loop between our Feed the Void and of course Bleak Watchers. The moment these two aspects are of course in full activation, this is going to create like a unique loop with one another. It's going to keep replenishing on not only your Arc Needle back to the 100%, but at the same time of course we're going to make sure that our abilities, if it comes to Feed the Void and Bleak Watcher and our grenade aspect, is going to go back to 100% extremely fast. Now, if it comes to a grenade, we are using, of course, to make sure that we are able to use the arc souls, and of course the stasis torrent. We're using the storm grenade because for far I have tested the torrent only works with, of course, the storm grenade itself. If I'm wrong, if you manage to do it differently, definitely let me know in the comments down below. But at this point right now, how this gauntlet really works, it only works within, of course, the storm grenade. If you're pressing L1 at the highest, then you're gonna proc, of course, the storm, your stasis torrents and your soul torrent at the same time. If it comes to fragment itself, the very first fragment we are using is, of course, the Facet of Hope. The Facet of Hope, what it's going to do is going to make sure that all our class ability regen himself a little bit faster than normal. Secondary fragment we're going to use is a Facet of Ruin. This is going to make sure that increase our size of our burst, stasis crystal, and frozen targets. So that means every single time we are freezing a target with a Bleak Watcher, it will increase the potency of that thanks to Facet of Ruin. Facet of Courage, of course, we're going to make sure our Arc Soul and Void ability has increased in damage every single time we afflict the target with the Darkness debuff. Once again, this is applicable one moment we have, of course, our Soul and a Stasis Torrent activated thanks to our Getaway Artist. This Facet of Courage, of course, is going to synergize with that again. We're going to make sure we have a certain form of pool of Radiance. We're going to increase our weapon power by 20% every single time we have Radiance. Thanks to the Facet of Dawn itself. The Facet of Dawn, we're going to make sure we're going to practice at all time thanks to our Arcane Needle. Arcane Needle is going to make sure we always have a constant form of Radiance. And Radiance is always going to allow us to have a pool that we can deal damage against barrier champion if it's needed. And of course, for any endgame contents in our choosing, we cannot go wrong with always having the Facet of Protection in our arsenal, because this is going to grant us another 30% of damage negation and resistance against every single incoming attack. If it comes to endgame content, this is at least mandatory for my books. But the cherry on the cake itself, if it comes to this build, it's not only the fragments, it's not only the abilities, it's not only the aspect. Of course, the one thing that truly gonna make sure that we are as good as immortal, and only personal or shit buttons against any single content, any single situation that we have in Grandmasters or endgame hard tier content, is gonna be, of course, our super. Our super of choosing, if it comes to this build, is the one and only Song of Flame. The Song of Flame, what it's going to do when we have this active, this is going to make sure that we have a permanent resistance that is equal to 100%. No matter who is shooting at you, no matter what the situation is, for the X amount of period and time, you are simply immortal. So if you ever find yourself in a panic moment, any Grandmaster or any situation itself, you practice one, you're simply going to be immortal. Now this becomes extremely important when it comes to Warlock. From my perspective and my book, I don't see why a Prismatic Warlock will ever change this super for another one. Because of the high tier content, this becomes extremely important if it comes to survivability for yourself and your teammates overall. For our weapon of choices, we are selecting two weapons as truly make sure that we are synergizing stuff perfectly if it comes to our endgame playstyles. The very first weapon, if it comes to our connect pool, we're using the Lost Signal. That is an aerial denial frame. And on this perk we have, of course, auto loading reloader and of course a per weapon. Auto loading reloader is going to make sure every single time we fire this thing, we're shooting with another weapon. The moment we come back to this weapon, is going to automatically reload this unique a grenade launcher for us. So the mix-ups, if it comes to DPS system, if it comes to in-game bosses like the witness itself on the raid itself, if you want to have an upkeep and your DPS rotation, this becomes extremely important and mandatory. Vapor weapon, of course, is increase our damage output from this weapon against bosses, physical, and of course guardians and generally. The last signal you can consider it and see it a little bit as the Winter Hold. The only difference is with the Winter Hold, this is an aerial denial. It creates 3 projectile in the area itself. The Winter Hold create like a one single pool in the area itself. It's similar to one another, but I've personally found the last signal a little bit more potent so far, and then the Whisper in the Hold itself. Secondary weapon that is mandatory if it comes to our build, is of course is our heavy slot weapon, is our Whispering of the Worm itself. This our A sniper rifle that we use against every single target that we want to DPS as fast as humanly possible, like in a ways like the witness itself, of any bosses itself that we want to burn as fast as possible. The Whisper of Worm is an extremely powerful weapon if it comes to in-game contents, and it's something a weapon you should not be sleeping on. And if it comes to our energy weapon, that is more of a flex spot, I like to call it. That's a weapon I like to choose within the content we are doing. Grandmaster, Onslaught, I like to shift this accordingly to the situation we are in. For this right now, for this showcase, we have of course slotted the Briar Love. We have on this perk of course the Rapid Hit and a Stabilized Round. As the images you're seeing on this Grandmaster Nightfall, that is the weapon we are using of course to make sure that every enemy that we killed also become volatile. And it's a very unique perk system that I managed to have. Of course, the in-game content become like very important for my books. Comes to our mods of our gear sets, and a helmet piece. Of course, we have special ammo finder and heavy ammo finder. This allows us to have a little bit more an upkeep of course to our ammos of the unique weapons we like to have of all time. That means the lost signal and the Whisper of Worm. And if it comes to our arm piece, we are the getaway artists. We are of course rocking momentum transfer, firepower, and of course firepower, 2 times firepower. This will create an orbs on the ground every single time we have of course a grenade kill, and of course in damage reduces the grenades. Causing damage with a grenade of course reduces our melee cooldown. For our chest piece, of course, we're only gonna wear the clothes that we are necessary if it comes to the counter, the Grandmaster we found necessary to put. But I always manage to have harmonic resistance, concussive dampener. I always manage to put these two at all time together, and the last slot I managed to put with the resistance we need on the Grandmaster or the counter we are fighting in this instance. For our leg piece, we are using of course and recuperation, better already, and of course invigoration. Apologies for that. And these perks allow us, for example, recuperation allow us to have a constant form of heal every single time we create an orb on the ground. Better already, and your health begins to regenerate immediately after you picking up an orb. And of course, invigoration reduces the cooldown of each time you pick up an orb. So if it comes to uptime, if it comes to our survivability and in-game content, it become important because we have a constant form of heal when the moments we have, of course, our orb pickup. And this also gonna allow us to have a little bit less cooldown of our melee abilities, thanks to the orbs that we are picking up. And we're creating a lot of orbs thanks to the weapon choices that we have, of course, and the perks we are using. And just generally, if it comes to our mark, we are using of course one and only Bulwark Finisher. Finisher allow you to create an overshield. We're using a powerful attraction. This will allow us to pull all the necessary orbs in our surrounding without we going to need to go run after it. So this is literally gonna have us a form of a quality of life, and if it comes to the battlefield itself, so the orbs will come towards us. And of course the proximity wards gain an overshield the moment we perform a finisher. If it comes to once again and survivability and game content, it becomes extremely important. And if it comes to our artifacts mod of this season itself, the very first mod we're using of course if it comes to anti-barrier. We're using this mod because this Grandmaster of this week is of course is based on anti-barrier, and the Scout rifle we're using of course is based on that. We reduce the cooldown of a melee and our grenade thanks to using the auto melee and of course auto grenade mod. For additional to the mod, I find personally important, of course I make sure we always have a power of pain, so we always have a certain form of weakens and devour in our toolkits. We also make sure that our grenade launcher has a faster upkeep if it comes to reload speed thanks to the rapid impact, and we increase of course the damage up with our grenade launcher thanks to concussion reload, because this is going to allow to weaken the combatant and moment they are struck with this weapon, with grenade launcher itself. We're going to create an orb every single time we break the shield of a guardian itself or an enemy whatsoever. We create an orb on the ground thanks to current orb, and of course we're going to make sure we have an armor charge every single time we create a final blow, and well, we are surrounded by different form of targets. If it comes to end game aspect, the armor charge is always going to be proccing itself. If it comes to Grandmaster, onslaught, because we are 90% of the time always surrounded. Additional to that, we just have a generic type of a mod we like to use as well, Feel the Revenant, because we have a certain form of us Revenant armor sets. This allows us to have a little bit more damage against scorns. Besides all of that, we'll make sure to have because we have riding a stasis weapon. The Lost Signal is a stasis weapon. The moment we have an proccing us off and final blow or precision hit with that weapon is going to proc us off across a frost armor. Addition to that, every enemy is being frozen thanks to our torrents or whatsoever. It's going to create a slow, not only to that, but thanks to the brain freeze, it can create a slow to all the enemies in the surrounding, as well as a form of a fog. Help us a little bit more in form of ad control. In addition to that, we'll make sure that every orb pickup we have, or it doesn't matter if it's stasis or a void, we create, of course, an aspect for stasis, create our class ability regen a little bit faster. If we have a void breach pickup, we'll make sure we have, of course, a melee energy regen a little bit faster. Now, before we leave, I want to give you an additional tip if it comes to raid composition. The thing you can change if it comes to aspect, if you truly want to master the highest DPS outpull, if it comes to raid itself. Now, what I always like to do in raid itself, of course, I change, of course, the empowering rifts, and make sure I have more damage output if it comes to this conjuring well I'm creating for myself and my teammates. And then additionally to that, I changed the torrent of the Bleak Watchers itself, and I changed it to Hellion itself. Hellion itself, if it comes to a single target, does an additional damage, a higher tier of damage than, of course, Bleak Watcher itself. If it comes to bosses like the Witness and this composition, I found personally the best composition to make sure you have the highest DPS output if it comes to the boss itself and in-game level itself. And that's it, guys, and that's of course marked the end of this showcase. This is officially my 4th build if it comes to Destiny itself. As you can see, I'm getting better and better if it comes to build crafting, build creation, and as the official last vanguard within the Destiny server itself, I'll give you my 100% promise. I always want to make sure I'm going to create unique builds for all 3 Titans itself until the full server of Destiny is closed. If you all wanted to follow the journey itself, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel itself, hit the notification bell, you don't miss any single thing. Any additional question, you can always hit me on my Discord page or during my live streams, of course, you will find in the descriptions down below, or one click button away on my YouTube page, you will go straight to my Twitch channel itself. So thank you very much for being here and for chilling with me. Hopefully I can see you all next time in the next Let's Play gameplay walkthrough, tips and tricks that we try to do in abundance with the channel itself. Once again, I wish you a pleasant day. One love only. Boost.